Welcome to this week's edition of Lenten Snacks with us here at Chestnut Ridge Christian Church. I'm sitting here in our sanctuary this afternoon, and it's really quiet. From time to time, I like to come in here and just sit and just be present for a little while, just to allow my day and my heart to kind of catch up with each other. Don't know if you've seen on television recently that commercial sponsored by the Calm app. The Calm app is an app you can put on your phone, and this commercial catches my eye each time it comes on because for 15, 30, 45 seconds, maybe even a minute, depending upon which commercial break it is, all you get is the sound of rain or the sound of an ocean surf, or the sound of a creek, and a countdown clock encouraging you to just sit still for those 15 seconds, for those 30 seconds, for those 45 seconds, and to just be, to just breathe, to just meditate, to just sit there and do nothing for that little amount of time. Many of you know the story about me and the monastery of the Holy Spirit, how 6 years ago I went out during my sabbatical on a retreat there, and one of my learnings was how uncomfortable I had become with silence. You see, before that moment, there was very little time in my life spent in silence. There was always music playing on in the background. There was always a television on. I was always engaged in conversation, sometimes even with myself, but there was always noise going on. And I remember going out to the monastery and sitting there, and before the daily offices would begin, sitting in silence, and it was a silent retreat, my mind continued to have its conversation. My mind continued to generate thought after thought after thought, and could go down all sorts of paths, but it was constantly active. It was constantly creating new images and new thoughts. And one of the things that I learned while out there was just how uncomfortable I was with silence, and how hard it was for me to learn how to silence my mind and all those thoughts. I'm happy to report that after 6 years of being in community with the ecumenical lay Cistercians out at the monastery and learning many of their spiritual techniques and disciplines, and praying the daily office, using centering prayer in my daily life, using Lectio Divina in my daily life, I've learned how to have those moments of silence, of sitting sometimes 20 or 30 minutes in silence now, and allowing my mind to be most of the time quiet for that period. It's not easy, but to be able to get to that point has been, for me, a huge undertaking and part of my spiritual journey. You know, I've learned a lot in these 6 years, too, about silence. Silence definitely can calm our hearts. In the middle of a board meeting or a regional board meeting activity, there have been times when we have just kind of stopped for a moment and sat in silence and allowed our souls to catch up with all of the business and all the things that were going on that we were so focused on, and how refreshing that was to be able to sit in silence for just a few moments. There were even moments when I could feel my heart and my soul actually running to catch up with where my mind was at that time. But see, one of the gifts of silence is the fact that it frees up our mind. It allows space to be created where God can enter, where God can take a hold of our thoughts and our thought processes, where God is able to make God's self known to us, where we're able to discern the presence of the divine with us. Silencing our thoughts are hard. That's why many of the spiritual directors that I've come across, and many of the great mystics, contemplatives throughout history, talk about the monkey mind, or the cocktail party that goes on within our minds, that constant conversation. But when we're able to silence that party, when we're able to silence those thoughts, when we're able to really clear our mind, we make space for God to enter in. We make space for God to make God's self known to us. I hope and pray that during your Lenten journey, maybe you're able to develop a discipline of silence, that you're able to find opportunities in your day to just sit and be. Maybe you get up a little earlier in the morning, maybe you go to bed a little later at night, maybe after lunch or during lunch, you can find time to just sit. It doesn't have to be 20 or 30 minutes. It doesn't even have to be 5 minutes. You can start, like the Calm app, with just 15 seconds or 30 seconds, where you just sit and be and allow your mind, allow your soul to rest, to be silent. And I pray and I hope that the peace of God will come to you during that moment, that you might be refreshed, that you might be renewed, that you might be equipped for the rest of your spiritual journey that lies ahead. I hope you're enjoying these Lenten lunch snacks that we're sharing. I hope and pray that they're edifying for you. I encourage you to share them with your friends and with your neighbors as well. And I look forward to being with you next time. And I hope that maybe some of you will be able to share with me moments of silence that you've had as you've developed that spiritual discipline of silence in your own life. Our prayers go with you in the days ahead. God be with you.